welcome to Star Trek Resignation, Under the Bridge, a Lower Decks podcast, deconstructing Glen, etc., etc., etc. It's that Lower Decks podcast that maybe you listen to from time to time. And hey, my name is Wade Bowen, and with me, as has been the reg this season of this only Star Trek podcast in existence, Glen Hall.
I don't know why you're specifying me for like a call out, but
I just want to run a clean show. I want to run a tight ship. I just don't want any.
Yes. I learned my lesson.
You know.
Hello.
Oh yeah. Hey, Sean. How's it going?
Though this episode really made me feel like I shouldn't be here.
Oh really?
Yeah, this is one that separates the Star Trek men from the Star Trek boys.
Star Trek boys. Oh yes, this episode, Crisis Point, right? Was the name of this?
Yes.
Crisis in of I don't know. No, I don't have anything. I don't.
Existential. And
Were you trying to make a Crisis on Infinite Earths?
I was gonna try to make a Crisis something that did pop into my head in the myriad choices I had, and they were all bad. So I.
Well, you could have gone with Crisis on Infinite Earth, Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, Forever Crisis, Identity Crisis.
No, because this is not a DC Comics podcast. There's no Star Trek references in there, and I don't know, from watching 9 episodes of this show, it's all about the references, baby.
Watching the 9th episode, it feels like it is all about the references, baby.
Yes, this is, I was watching this, I was like, oh, Glenn and I will have a lot to talk about.
Oh,
like,
yes.
I'll just sit out this one.
Sean over here that's only watched the Kelvin movies doesn't have
I
saw
Wrath of Khan 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so there's a little bit of Wrath of Khan in this.
Yeah, I don't remember it well enough. All I remember about Wrath of Khan is that I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly just her sitting in the talking and the review screen, and I think he's quoting Moby Dick more than the Tempest, but
sure.
it was a very
Yes, he from Hell's Heart I stab at thee.
But the quoting the Shakespeare is very Star Trek.
Yes, even on this brief podcast we've gotten into that.
I was gonna say, you like this episode?
I loved this episode. I really loved it. I thought it was great.
I liked it quite a bit. Yeah, but you and I know these movies. I guess.
Exactly.
But I liked it too. I could talk about it. I guess you want to give a quick synopsis or explain the framing device.
Just to explain the conceit of the episode, which is, Beckett gets ordered to therapy by the captain, and the therapist, of course, is played by Paul F. Tompkins as playing a giant parrot man, which I loved.
I didn't quite love it, but
I liked the joke.
He felt too much like Paul F. Tompkins.
Yeah, he didn't do anything except do food puns. It's like, oh, this is all you're doing. And it's like, okay, since Mr. Peanut Butter, he can't help but be an animal in any.
Is that his character on BoJack?
Yeah, he's great on that. This was like, okay, we have rat people, we've got lizard people, and then we've got a bird. It's like, are all the aliens in this show just animal people or what? And we've got the cat doctor, and then there was the jokes of were just like food jokes. It's like, this is all you get. This is all you can do with Paul F. Tompkins, really.
Hopefully, this is just kind of a get him in the door, because I'm surprised he was on this season at all, because I thought he had said, because he had been asked if he was going to be on the show, and he said, I think we'll try and find something for me next season. So it was a pleasant surprise to hear him in the first season.
A little classic misdirect.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, so the whole conceit is she doesn't want to do therapy, and Boimler has this like holodeck program he's trying to use to prepare for an interview, which replicates the personalities of the bridge crew. Which, a bit of canon tidbit, it says that they use like the private logs of crew members to make these. I don't know if that was ever in another Trek, but that's an interesting.
I just thought it was like a way to explain how he gets perfect,
gets
good dirt on him and stuff. Because he had to hack to do it. It's like, wait a minute, that's not quite above board, but he's trying to cheat to get ahead, I guess.
But anyway, so the whole conceit is Mariner decides to use these programs to make a movie, to have her and the Lower Decks crew perform in a movie that is a very focused parody of I think pretty much every single Trek movie, including the Kelvin ones.
Yeah, they get them all. They get a lot of them in there. Yeah.
The only one I can't think of like an overt reference to was maybe Final Frontier, but it seemed like everything else, at least every era, got
Right. Yeah.
so like the one that got me was the 2-minute long ship gazing sequence when they're
Yeah.
I've said this on the pod before, but one of the reasons
You hate the
the
motion
fucking
picture.
motion picture 45 minutes of staring out windows.
Yep. And it's like, oh, she's beautiful. Gonna cry over it, and then just like cuts. Yeah, that's that reference humor that we know, like for good or ill. This one was going full bore into it, but you know what? It worked for me because it was in the service of a character. Like all the references, like I mean, the conceit was just referenced. Hey, it's a movie, and it was just like, okay, that's fine. It's a joke that you're doing a movie. You're doing a spoof, and you know what? You're allowed to do spoofs of Star Trek stuff, but the whole conceit of it ultimately was to get into character and have Mariner kind of evolve or change a little bit and have a character moment. So I was like, okay, it's all a big just a holodeck program thing, but it's in the service of character. Therefore, I'm on board for it. Sean? No, not so much. Sean?
No, the fact that you're saying this means, Wade, that you've become what you hated. You've become the fact that you're saying you like this episode and you're bending over backwards to justify there not being any comedy in this episode at all. It means that you have become the worst kind of Star Trek fan. This is the worst shit in the. There's nothing funny that isn't a reference to something else. There's nothing. Zero. No, there is. There's one thing, and it's him like looking at Paul Scheer's sad character at the end, and being like, he's so strong or whatever, and he's so sad. That's right. That's great. And like
I didn't say I liked it for the comedy. I said I liked it for that it's doing character stuff. The comedy is secondary to what I liked about it.
But the problem is that we were in a good stretch of funny. That's what bummed me out. Like the past few episodes have had like real like hard comedy, like good smart comedy, like really like well like oh fuck like this is funny Star Trek. This is taking advantage of the premise of Star Trek and putting in like actual like jokes and stupid fucking comedy into it, and I love it. And then this is just a fucking reference fest. Just for the fucking I have no problem with Star Trek being for Star Trek people. I have no problem with Star Trek not being for me because I haven't watched Star Trek. That's fine. But fuck you. No, absolutely
fuck me,
not.
Sir. Fuck no. It's like
I don't accept. And I agree that the character stuff was good. I think the character stuff was good. But your show is funny. They found like a funny pace, and then they're just like, let's throw all the funny away and just make references to movies. No.
But Sean, what if I told you it was very funny how they reference the fact that like the technology seems to be more effective in the movies versus in the shows? Like they can do more stuff with transporters.
Right? Yeah, there's jokes with that. There's just like
it's funny how they reference is not funny. That's not comedy. That's a reference.
Hey man, I mean, just there's different ways to.
Sure.
I mean,
and the past few episodes had jokes. They had comedy. And this one has, look, this thing happened in a movie. It's fine. I'm happy, but Wade.
You're not happy.
You're a hypocrite,
Don't lie to
Wade.
Me.
You're a goddamn hypocrite.
Wait, what? You can go to hell, sir. No.
No, I know. No, it's fine. I'm glad you guys. This is for you, and I'm glad you liked it.
I mean,
I'm getting it out now because this is this is all I can say about this episode.
Hey, if we could, I'm no stranger to screaming at each other on a podcast, Sean. Don't worry about it.
I know. I gotta get it out now.
All right. The scoot sled.
The hydro scooters.
Hydro scooters. I don't know. That was just a dumb name for something that made me laugh. And okay, that wasn't a reference. That was other than
funny.
No, you're right. And that scene was more just a reference to how like most of these movies start with some like high production value, like outdoor shot of the crew.
Right, like the cliff climbing in Star Trek V, or
the holodeck ship on I think it's in Generations, which was the first TNG movie.
To be a Star Trek episode where you have like, sorry, Sean, but every Star Trek series has the holodeck shenanigans episode, which is fine to hate because a lot of people hate those. And you know what? You hate this one, hey, hate it. That's cool. That's fine.
But wait, but what? But I, but why can't the Jack McBrayer?
I would have loved Badgie to make an appearance.
Yeah.
But that, that's the holodeck nonsense episode, and it's good. That's a good episode because it's just so funny and absurd and stupid.
Well, like what I liked, what is interesting to me about like what this show can do that other Star Treks can't, because like most of the time it's like it's a holodeck, and then they do a Sherlock Holmes mystery or some low budget shit. But like, if you could go and do anything on a holodeck, you'd be having like the most high cost, high design porn that you've ever seen.
Right.
But this one, it's like a movie. Like, oh wait a minute. In reality, people would be living out movies all the time, like they do that Bond movie in DS9, which is an episode we didn't like. But hey, you haven't gotten there.
If it's not in season 2,
Glenn, and you haven't listened to the podcast where I talk about it, so you wouldn't know.
Wait till status report. I might have some good news for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even trying to shit on you. I'm just saying
and
that
yet you did.
It. Yeah, which is fine. I'm not. Well, I mean, sure. I mean, I'd be remiss not to point it out. But at least, like, okay, you can do in a cartoon, you can do like a big budget movie holodeck shenanigans episode, and you can do it because it's a cartoon, so you can have the whole.
I mean, I think the thesis of the episode was just making fun of all the specific things that Trek movies do that are different from the shows, like there's sort of like a subtextual parody of that, which is terrible for people like Sean. I freely admit that.
Oh yeah, and it was all up in like even the character moments outside of like with Tendi are all just like, hey, you have to know specific things about Orions to even understand what, like, because Orion slave girls are where the greenskin people really took off in the original series because they were hot ladies dancing with little clothes on, and they're all like slave owners and criminals. There's the Orion Syndicate, which is an organized crime organization in the galaxy, and then DS9 deals with them, and as vicious as you want to, you can get as mean as you want to me about this episode, Sean, but you'll never get as vicious as James and Hugh did when I tried to defend the mobster episode in season 6 or 7 of DS9.
Boy.
Because I liked it and they fucking hated it so bad.
That's very good.
And then her kind of whole thing is like, wait a minute, no, fuck you, Mariner, for setting me up as this stereotype of Orions are all like this, and like, and then the joke, like, hey, some of us haven't been capitalist, hyper-libertarian mobster pirates for at least 5 years.
Right.
Which, to bring up, like, where Orion's, I guess that is a little bit of C-word shit that we're talking about, in that TNG never had any Orions at all, and neither did none of the, or DS9 didn't show any of the greenskin people. It just referred to the Orion Syndicate as criminals. And so it's been a recent development. We learned in this episode, it's only recently that Orions are not all criminals, and
and they also, there's at least one animated series episode that is specifically about like Orion pirates, which in that episode it's funny, they make the Orion basically, I don't know about, I think it would be after this, but the Orions that you see in the animated series are basically Kree from like the Marvel comics, like including their outfits. They have kind of like Marvel style outfits, and I think because the animated series was like 70s, right?
Animated series was
I'm
70s.
trying to remember when the Kree were actually created. It doesn't matter, but
I don't care.
No one.
Well, this is the 80s.
What's that? Oh, that was a line that was interesting. Like you don't often hear them talk about this is the 80s on.
Which that was a funny joke to me, like, because it's the 80s, we don't need therapy, like, because I don't know, it's the 80s. It's like, I don't know, when I was growing up in the 90s, they're like, hey, it's the 90s now. In the early 90s, things are different. We're out of the 80s, and we're all so advanced because it's the 80s. Maybe that is only funny to me.
No, I thought it was funny. Look, this episode was very clearly not for everyone. It was for a very specific slice of Star Trek nerd that has seen the shows and seen the movies.
Well, I think it was for every Star Trek nerd.
I mean,
I'm just not one.
I would argue it's for even a narrower slice than that, because again, like, part of the fun is realizing that there is a different vibe to the movies than there is to the shows. Like, the shows, of course, are more focused on action and spectacle than the series are, the movies are more focused on spectacle and action than the series are. Yes, yeah, like the technology like seems to work differently if it's a movie versus if it's a show, and
all I was saying is that, like, I think anyone who would describe themselves as a Star Trek nerd has seen the Star Trek movies.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
That's all. Like, yeah, I think it's for like a broad. It's for like a more narrow like subsect of people than other episodes, just because it is like all like sending up those movies, which again is fine. But I will yell at you guys about it.
Oh, please do. Yeah, I insist that you do.
Because I'm on a podcast that like for an episode that I got like literally nothing out of.
What about Shimpo? Did you like Shimpo?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Shimpo was okay.
I'm Shimpo. I'm just...
That's basically
Shimpo was good.
That's the voice you and Benny used to make fun of me for being from Texas.
I'm Glen. I'm from Texas.
My favorite song is Old Town Road.
I was supposed to be played by Boymore.
Yeah, that was good. And if I was afraid it was going to be like a stupid running joke for the entire thing, but they phased him real quick, and the captain goes, "Oh, that poor Shempo." I was like, "It was great."
That wasn't a pushing my glasses up. That wasn't a phaser. That was a disruptor.
Sorry.
Punch me in the dick. I deserve it.
Boy, if only I could.
But yeah, so it's, overall, like, again, if you're that narrow slice of Star Trek nerd with like
the bit of I'm just trying to remember all the jokes that weren't references. There was that bit of
good.
The technobabble that was the pothead humor. Did that? I bet the Star Trek nerds hated that. When he's in engineering, he's like, you have to bypass the indica and support the sativa protocols or something.
Oh, I didn't get that. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that one sort of. I was sort of glossy-eyed most of this episode.
Yeah, bypass the indica controls and subvert the sativas.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, all right. I bet Star Trek nerds hate that. This is just Rick and Morty pothead humor.
Right.
But it wasn't a Star Trek reference, right?
Take what you can get.
It was wrapped up in Star Trek reference technobabble,
right.
like a rapper on an MOV file. Sorry.
Well, it like another like, I guess arguably a reference, but like, I did like how they, at one point, were like, this is kind of messed up that she has created the scenario where she is murdering her coworkers, like virtual versions of her coworkers, and seemingly, like, really enjoying it. It's like...
Yeah. She's working through some shit. She's like, therapy! And then she said, therapy works, guys. I was like, okay.
They do again, almost everything is like, oh, well, this is like, the final fight in most of the movies, and yada yada. So, like, we'd be talking for an hour if we were just going through all the different references, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very fun reference vehicle episode versus last week, which I did not like. So I thought it was interesting. Last week I hated how they did the reference vehicle shit, and this week I was like, oh, I'm totally on board.
Right.
So delivery is important.
Yeah, I mean, it was one. I guess it worked for me because I could recognize it, but yeah, like I said, that it was in the service of character.
Right.
Made me forgive a lot more of it, and it's like, okay, it's a spoof, I can handle that. But now I feel like a piece of shit. You called me out, Sean, and like, oh,
yeah,
maybe
fuck you.
Maybe I am a whore, maybe I am a hypocrite. Oh my god.
No, you're fine. I get it. I understand.
I mean, I had little technobabble questions, like the fucking Da Vinci. I was like, oh yeah, of course they had to do Da Vinci in the holodeck. But then at the end, Vindicta like lands in a search for Spock pod and pops out, and then Da Vinci's like, not on Da Vinci's watch, and shoots her. It's like, but like, so that was the when did she switch to being a holodeck program versus the person that
I think the answer is, this is like when I was like, oh, was that little like orb entity from whatever second episode or whatever, was that going to come back? Like, I thought that was something bigger. It's like, no, it was just a joke. It was just a Rathacon reference at the end of the movie where you see the coffin.
Right.
But I did laugh at the Da Vinci thing. I liked, not on Da Vinci's watch.
Yeah, that was good. Don't fucking ruin it, Wade.
I just like didn't understand like the logic behind it. It was like, wait a minute, that character died and then she left the program,
fuck you.
and then the character takes over
Fuck
where
you.
the person, and it's just running with nobody in it. Why is it doing that?
Fuck you.
And then also at the very beginning,
my
Joni
God.
noticed when in the cold open, her mom says one to beam out. And then how did it know that the captain was beaming out Mariner instead of beaming out
I
herself?
had the exact same question.
Because later she says when she's beaming out her mom, she says beam out on my signal. So it says she didn't say my signal, so they knew it had to be the other person.
No, because then when she beams out, she's saying when that happened, she was saying, "Hey, transporter, beam out this person on my signal." She puts the signal on her mom to beam her out. So she's telling the transporter there is another person instead of saying one to beam up, which traditionally means that you're the person being beamed up.
Well,
And
traditionally, that doesn't mean it always.
It means
they know how many
how do you
people
denote?
are there.
Did you know that they
But
never
then-
said beam me up Scotty on the show?
Yes, I know that, Glenn. Hey, Glenn, what's the matter with you? We're having a conversation. All right? Yeah, Glenn, I know boring trivia,
I
okay?
just felt like making you angry.
Okay, just if that comes up in your trivia night, Sean, I want you to be prepared.
It might. It might. No Star Trek questions. There was a Rick and Morty question last week, though.
Okay.
I think the closest they get is Scotty beam us up.
I continue to not care.
You could care a little.
But then one to beam out means, yeah. And I just have, Joni brought that up, and I was like, I'm going to put a pin in that.
Nah,
If
they
it
just
comes
knew.
up, I'll talk about it. Yeah.
They just knew.
It's just because the plot had it, but it did seem like a little bit, like, wait a minute, you should have maybe caught that.
Eh.
Writers.
They just know that means beam up the other person who's here. No.
Traditionally, it does not.
Yeah.
They say
Traditionally,
that.
Well, this
They
is
say one to beam out all the time, and then they beam
well,
themselves
right.
out.
Well, this is an animated
this-
show, so clearly things are different. Those were real people. This is a cartoon.
Yeah. Well, it's like things work differently in the movies.
Yeah,
but-
exactly.
I did
See?
like how in the briefing with the Admiral in the movie, how Boimler says, like, let's be real, if this were really happening, they'd send the Enterprise, like, but, this artistic license, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I like that he basically acknowledging that the Cerritos is like a B-list ship.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. It's like, oh, yeah, it was a lot of references, wasn't it? There are some I probably missed.
Oh, plenty, but
yeah.
we'll
Toby, you dress up as Toby Targ every Halloween is what something she tells herself.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I didn't recognize that. Is that anything?
I don't know. Part of me was like, oh my God, was that a reference to the short treks? There's awful. They did like 2 children's cartoons with like a tardigrade.
Oh, I actually liked the one with the tardigrade for what it's worth.
Oh, I hated those little children's cartoons. It's like, what?
There was the other one that was like the like creation myth one. I didn't like that one, but the tardigrade one I just liked just because it was just like a neat little.
It was fine, but it was like it just made me mad. Of like, what the fuck is this show? and this is dumb. Like it's not. Yeah.
Toby the Targ was the creator of a series of educational holo programs for children.
Yeah, I believe that's from the short treks.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird that this doesn't say.
That is strange.
Like where Toby the Targ appears.
But it's I think we can agree this was an episode that was for a specific audience and not as evergreen as the others. Like that's a fair.
Which is that is a fair. Which kind of is a shame because it is a clear like lead in to the finale.
Right,
Like
finding out that
Boimler. This is the way that episodic series often do. Like they're just episodic episodes, and then like something happens, and maybe it'll be like one.
Right, there's
soft,
like one thread.
One soft carryover to the next
Yeah.
episode, especially at the end of a season. And that's what this was. It's like, oh, Boimler learns the big secret that Mariner is Captain Freeman's daughter, and we know that's going to be...
I forgot it was a secret.
Right?
I did not remember. I thought like just that everybody knew.
Ironically, they are very coy about the fact that it is a secret. Like it's if you pay close attention, it seems to be, but like they never, Freeman never outright says nobody knows that she's my daughter, and vice versa.
Right, right. And then, they're talking loud together like mom in scenes where they might be overheard.
Right.
I don't, yeah.
It's strange. It is strange that like they never acknowledge that it is a secret, and presumably
it feels to me like they hedged their bets. That was the writers being like, "Well, do we want? Is this a secret? I don't know. Let's save it, and then see if we want to do that."
Right. Well, it's not a secret. Status report. I'm gonna put the whistle.
Yeah.
That was some segue there, bud.
I was leaving.
Yeah, I knew it was coming, but I wasn't gonna take the bait, and I was a little frightened.
I because I'm using my phone, I have to put the
put it in fix it in post.
So just
woo.
So two bullet points for status report this week. One, I'm
not even gonna shit on you this week. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead.
So the 2 bullet points. One, I am very close to being done with season 2. I think I have 3 episodes left in season 2. I just watched The Wire, which was the big Garrick episode. Yeah. It was great. I loved it. Garrick kind of sneaks up as a interesting character.
Oh yeah, Garrick's.
And as I understand it, there is a wealth of shipping for Garrick and Bashir. So I watched that episode sort of with that in mind, being like, could you read this as romantic? And you 1000%, if you really wanted to, you could absolutely have that subtext.
The actor playing Garrick, Andrew Robinson, was has clear. And when he first shows up, especially in the first episode, he's just trying to fuck him. Like, the actor's like, oh, he clearly wants to fuck Bashir. That's his MO. And then later, allegedly, the producers were like, can you tone it? They had to write the gay out.
Sure, they did the thing they did in Rise of Skywalker. They had to make it very clear that these characters are straight as arrows because that's how this works.
Except Andrew Robinson is good enough an actor that he never plays it. This guy, he's not straight. And even later, he's like, hey, he's at least bi. He's an alien. He'll fuck anything.
Yeah.
But
but they put so much effort into writing Bashir as like a straight horn dog that it feels like an overcompensation. Again, much like Rise of Skywalker, where they had to write in a worthless subplot to establish that Oscar Isaac's character is totally straight.
Right.
Anyway, so just shows the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Everybody's got a case of the not gays.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
They have to write that into their media. Yeah. Especially, Star Trek, I think, has finally gotten over their not gays, infection. So now they're like, yes, bring on the gay characters.
Unbury the gays.
Yeah.
So that's the most recent episode I've seen in full is The Wire. I think so. And the accompanying bullet point is that I have almost finished the first season of Rules of Acquisition, and so I'm trying. There's a lot, Wade, but thankfully most of the episodes are relatively short, and I listen at double speed, so I'm able to, clear a few of them. I know I can.
Man, I said I wasn't gonna yell at you, but I'm okay 1.5 speed, but double speed.
I can understand you guys perfectly well. So
stop talking about it.
All right,
just stop talking about it.
Here's all the yelling at you that I've done over this. That you've had this trump card that you've been able to play this whole time, Glenn, and I could wait until the season finale of Under the Bridge to unleash it, but I'm not, because you could just tell people. You could just come back at me, yell at me, like, Wade, hey, at least I go fucking pay and go pay for the Patreon. And if you're giving us money on the Patreon, I'm going to shut right the fuck up.
That is true.
So
it's crazy that you make a host pay for the Patreon.
I do.
Hey, that's fine.
Pay for this experience, technically speaking.
It is wild.
Yeah. That's okay. I made it worth. He's coming out ahead. So he's doing the editing, so he's like the Patreon money goes for editing and stuff.
I've wet my beak a little bit on that.
Right. Yeah, I want to come out. Yeah, I believe we're all lefty on the Rules of Acquisition, and I'm not trying to take advantage of anybody. And you're doing the work.
You did ask if I was planning to unionize, which I thought was strange.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh shit, I better throw them a bone before they sign a union card. Because,
this activity tracking anklet it also felt unnecessary, but
yeah, right. Well, I just need to know that you're putting the hours in, and I'm paying you accordingly.
I have to go to bed.
Right. But anyway, so listening to the podcast, enjoying it, of course. I will say, just in that first season, at least, you guys are very hard on Kira and Daxa in particular, and
yep,
I definitely. I'll admit that I don't find Kira super compelling, at least in the early seasons. Though season 2 Kira is definitely much better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're huge assholes. We come around a lot. Actually, on both of those characters, it takes a bit longer for us to come around on Dax.
I will admit there is a
Dax Shepard is on DS9.
Yes, armchair expert.
Now I'll watch it.
But I will say in y'all's defense, like with TNG and Deep Space Nine, and presumably Voyager as well, I think the women characters, especially near the beginning of these shows, were imbued with what I can only refer to. This is particularly true of Tasha Yar. I think Denise Crosby's the actor's name on TNG. They're imbued with what I call canceled pilot energy, where like they either give the actor nothing to do or try and like fit them into this very specific mold. Like again, I feel like Tasha Yar is a good example of this, where like they tried to make her like, the martial artist, like no bullshit, but like very shallowly written.
The women in Star Trek in those first have a lot of we have no women in the writers' room.
Exactly,
energy.
that's a better way.
Except for DC Fontana pops in every now and then, but they're like, yeah, this is why you need diversity in the writing room. Something we say a whole lot on the ROA, and I think that's the one. Yeah, steps have been made in the right direction.
Sure. So I'll agree that like Kira and Dax are almost certainly behind the scenes suffering from that syndrome where they're just like, well, we don't know what to do.
We're mean. We're not nice to the performances.
Yeah, you guys are very. You guys get into the weeds on a lot of the acting stuff.
Yeah, but because that's whatever. But we'd come around. Just if you we got so much hate in those early seasons, especially for. Yeah, but whatever. It turns out fine. Whatever. I'm sorry, Sean.
Look, don't apologize to Sean. Yeah,
I'm fine.
So I mean, and that's the sort of the
fuck you.
The sort of secret of Star Trek a lot of times that there are genuinely fantastic performances in basically every iteration of Star Trek, even TOS. Like those performances are there. Oh, yeah. But the sort of cultural perception from the outside is that Star Trek is where you either have like campy or poorly written performances and blah blah blah. But like the Deep Space Nine, for example, you had Renee you know how to pronounce it. I don't. I'm sorry.
Auberjonois,
and Armin Shimmerman, just easy for an outsider to write up like, they're under all that makeup, but like they are doing genuinely great performance. And Avery Brooks, I think,
they're awesome.
Does a good job with, even though it doesn't seem like, I think you guys agreed on this, that like they didn't seem to quite know what they wanted to, like what kind of captain they wanted Sisko to be at first, but from what I understand, like, and in season 2 it seems like they are slowly focusing who he is.
Yeah, you can see him working out a lot of shit.
Yeah. Well, it's the same story with TNG. Those first 2 seasons, even though I liked them for the most part, they are rough. Like, there's a lot.
Right. That's why I'm cautiously optimistic for 2 weeks now here for Discovery. Season 3 is usually when these things start to turn around, but but who knows? Disco
kicks in right after Lower Decks ends.
So we're recording this the week of the Lower Decks finale.
You don't have to tell them that.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, don't tell them shit. They don't get to know the sausage gets made.
It's coming out soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just said 2 weeks, so whatever.
Yeah. Well, then whatever. It comes out when it comes out.
It's sooner than that. Yeah.
But so overall, like Deep Space Nine is slowly improving for me. I think I've said this before. I do like that it is focused on sort of a different like slice of the Star Trek galaxy, and it's an enjoyable experience, and I finally have gotten into a groove now that I don't have like an editing backlog where I can watch a certain number a day, and I think the promise I made is by the end of the... I said 2 months, but I'm going to be a little more conservative and say by the end of the year, I will have started Voyager. I will have finished Deep Space Nine and started Voyager.
Hey, man. It's your schedule, not mine. I'm
No,
holding you
no,
to
I
it,
know.
so.
But I am...
All right. Wee woo,
I do reach a
motherfuckers,
point
right?
where, like, even if I like a show, I am very eager
Not
to
right.
move on to the next one.
I appreciate the effort.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Wee woo, fine. I won't talk about it anymore. Not even going to put it in post. It's just going to be this dejected wee woo.
Then it's going to be like status update goes on forever. It never ends.
No!
Magic never ends.
Still glowing. That clock is still running.
You live in status update now, Sean. That's your life.
That makes sense to me. This is
You're
my
welcome.
COVID.
Welcome to hell. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but I guess we're at the end of the pod.
Sure.
All right. Is that
No.
how's your imaginary podcast going, Sean?
I'll let you know during the disco season.
Okay. All right. Wait. Okay.
I guess I should come up with another imaginary podcast. I guess mine will be a slow burn style investigation as to whether the Orions on animated series were ripping off the Kree from Marvel or the other way around.
Sure. It's like a serial style.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll do like interviews and stuff and be like, "Did you know who knew what when?"
Right. Okay.
I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah. It's my third favorite imaginary podcast.
After the ambush bug one.
Yeah. They're neck and neck. This one might overtake.
There's a plug, a recommendation I'll make for those in the comics.
Okay. I was like, tread carefully,
No, not Star Trek related. I promise.
No, I'm just kidding.
I've been reading the DC like zombie spinoff.
We don't need to plug these big corporate machines.
I just wanted to
that's
say I've
where
been
I
reading
start.
this comic series that's an Elseworlds tale about like a zombie apocalypse hitting the DC universe, and I have enjoyed it very much. It is a very like campy take on like a zombie story in that setting. Marvel did this years ago in their own way, but I've appreciated.
Glenn, I have to go to bed.
Yeah, he's trying to get out of here, and
I have
here
to
you
go
are
work
trying to
tomorrow,
throw
Glenn.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Warner
I'm sorry.
Brothers more money.
Jesus.
Like, hey, there's ways to find it out there, people. Sorry.
I'm done.
But all right. Well, yeah. Self-destruct sequence activated.
Beta, Glen Beta.
Glen Beta.
Glenn Beta. Don't worry, Glenn.
Glenn Beta
really,
1.
it's all of us Beta.
Well, that's what you do. Glen Beta, Wade Beta, Sean Beta.
Right.
Sean Beta. Cuck.
Snowflake.
Pew!
Sometimes I feel like I just don't get Star Trek. Sometimes I feel like I'm bumming out weight. I don't know DS9, Nemesis TNG. Maybe it's hopeless Discovery Sun. Picard was fine, I guess. Never seen Wrath of Khan. Voyager Enterprise sounds like gibberish. The original series, I guess there's a cartoon. I always wonder where's Star Trek for Sean. Hush it, look, it's